Hello, everyone. Tonight we're going to focus mostly on a speech by James Lindsay. We're going to do a watch along. He gave this speech not too long ago, and it's about he calls it the politics of compliance. So we'll go ahead and watch that in a little while. That's going to be the main focus of this episode. But before we get to that, I just wanted to touch base on a couple other things. Also, that speech is only about 15 minutes long. We'll review it. It'll probably take a little bit longer to get through that. But overall, I don't think I think this episode is gonna run a little shorter than the full hour. But this is important stuff that I want to cover and make sure that we're all aware of it and understanding it. So first of all, I just wanted to touch base on kind of I renamed the show, I guess, so to speak. Right when I started it a couple months ago, I wasn't really trying to come up with any big name or anything like that. I just wanted to start it and get going and try to get out information. But it's important for me. Like, the main reason I'm doing this is so that people understand how serious this is and the situation that we're in. Right. So, ultimately, our liberty is under attack. Our country is under attack, and this is a major fight for our freedom. So I'm trying to convey that. I titled tonight's I titled the show "Liberty's Last Stand," because this is literally what we're facing. Right. We have to stand up to what's going on, or we will lose our liberty. We will lose our freedom. We will lose our country. So that, I just wanted to put that as the title of the show, just so that's stands right out and as a reminder of what we're up against, or what we're facing. As those of you who've been watching the show, remember, like the very first episode was called "America Under Attack," which was titled after the essay I wrote of the same name. And this is what I'm trying to stress, and how serious this is. So anyway, that's the name change, and hopefully it'll drive it home a little more. So, and before we get into the speech with James Lindsay, I want to just kind of review something else real quick. So this is a tweet from Elon Musk, right? Saying, this is a battle to the death with the anti-civilizational woke mind virus. Right? He says his positions are centrist. He wants secure borders, right? Safe and clean cities. Don't bankrupt America with spending. Racism against any race is wrong. And no sterilization below age of consent. Right? He's talking about the transgender issue. And he's saying, he's asking, is this right wing? Is this right wing? Well, to be honest with you, right, the left absolutely considers those positions right wing, because any position that doesn't agree with them is a right wing position. Even though he's saying he considers himself a centrist, like a lot of people do, and these are very centrist, reasonable views. But this is what it's come to. And I just want to point out, right? I mean, this is serious language he's using here. This is a battle to the death with the anti-civilizational woke mind virus, right? Anti-civilizational woke mind virus. And like I said, like we've talked about before, the wokeness, or the woke mind virus, as he puts it here, is really just a tool of the globalists. It's a tool of destabilization. It's a tool of destruction, so that they can create the conditions to implement their great reset, their build back better, their new world order. Right? This is all part of what's going on. So just to kind of stress this a little bit more in terms of what woke is trying to do, trying to destroy our country. I mean, we'll hear it once again straight from their own mouth, right? This is another tweet from Elon Musk, and it's a video. I'm going to play it here in a minute, but it says, most reasonable people, because they are reasonable, cannot believe that the goal of the far left is to end America. Right? I mean, it's so hard. It's so hard to, get people to understand this or to believe it. But this is their goal. This is what they're doing. This is literally what they're doing. And it is hard to believe. It is hard to believe. It's like so far out of the realm of possibility, out of our, what we've experienced in our lives. Especially in the United States, it's so unbelievable, but this is what's happening, and more people have to start to understand it, and more people have to believe it, and more people have to start standing up against it. So let me just play this video quick here, so you can hear it from their own mouth, right? This is a protester at this is a kind of citizen journalist here interviewing a protester, and you can hear what he says. Now it's going to take a minute to load here. Yeah, let me try to get this to reload. All right, here we go.
I'm a journalist.
You're not a journalist.
How do you decide who's a journalist?
Of commerce, of capital itself.
All right, here's from the beginning.
You're over here appropriating a space for your own personality.
I'm a journalist.
You're not a journalist.
How do you decide who's a journalist?
I mean, considering I was fired as a journalist, you're no journalist.
Literally, would you rather be itchy or sticky your whole life?
You're not doing this for what the actual conversation is, which is getting rid of this country.
Getting rid of this country?
Getting rid of America, getting rid of the West. This is what this is for.
You want to get rid of America?
Yes. Everyone here understands that at some level we need to get rid of America completely.
What should we do?
Decolonization, land back.
Where should we go, though?
In our communities. We need to go leave the capitals, leave the central capitals of commerce, of capital itself. You're over here appropriating a space.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and play it again, right? And we'll just take certain pieces, just listen to what he's saying, right? But here we go.
You're over here appropriating a space for your own personality.
I'm a journalist.
You're not a journalist.
How do you decide who's a journalist?
I mean, considering I was fired as a journalist, you're no journalist.
Literally, would you rather be itchy or sticky your whole life?
You're not doing this for what the actual conversation is, which is.
So here where it says, I don't know, the subtitle says itchy or sticky. It's not what he said, but not sure what he said, but it wasn't that, but that was the subtitles. Anyway, that's besides the point.
You're not doing this for what the actual conversation is, which is getting rid of this country.
Getting rid of this country?
Getting rid of America, getting rid of.
Right there it is, right there. Getting rid of America, getting rid of this country, getting rid of America.
The West. This is what this is.
Getting rid of the West. This is exactly what we've been talking about.
For.
You want to get rid of America?
Yes. Everyone here understands that at some level we need to get rid of America completely.
What should we do?
So the guy asked him, what should we do? And like we talked about before, in other episodes, right? They can't give like a pot. They can't give a vision of what they want to do, of what it will actually look like, right? He just gives some vague nonsense.
Decolonization.
So decolonization, we talked about that word before too, right? That's a huge kind of red flag word. That's a huge attention. You know, when you hear that, you know, you'll know right away of what they're talking about. They're talking about destroying America ultimately, and decolonization. That gets is a very violent mindset behind it. And we could talk about that another time, but they literally think that violence is justified to decolonize a country.
Land back.
Where should we go, though?
In our communities, we need to go leave the capitals, leave the central capitals of commerce, of capital itself. You're over here appropriating a space.
So that's it. So like I said, I just wanted to show you those things. I wanted to kind of stress again, you know, why I changed the name of the show to Liberty's Last Stand, and why I've been trying to express that, you know, America is under attack. This is, you know, we have to take this seriously. It's not going away. They're going to continue to destroy our country until we stand up and you know, prevent it from happening. And in order to do that, we have to understand what's going on, right? We have to understand their mindset and their tactics, you know, their worldview. Okay, so let's jump into James Lindsay's speech here. So just so you know as well, right? So he gave the speech not too long ago on the original video source, which is on YouTube. I put the link to it in the description. On the original video source, it seemed like they had some technical difficulties with the recording, where the audio is actually a little bit choppy, which is okay. We can get through that. But the video was, I'm not sure what I said. The video is a little bit choppy. The audio was kind of shifted a little bit, so when he was talking, it didn't really line up as closely with his actual the movement of his mouth, right? So it was a little hard. It was a little hard for me to watch. So what I did was I redid it a little bit. I shifted the audio over to make it line up a little bit better, so it's a little easier to watch. So if you do go to the original source, you will see that, and you know, just know that, you know, I made a little bit of adjustment on the video that we're watching now. The audio, the video is still the same. It's a little bit choppy. You know, like I said, they must have some technical issues. They happen, you know, whatever it was. But we're going to go ahead and watch this. I may stop it once in a while to kind of like talk about a few things. But like I said, this video itself is about 15 minutes long. Just real quick too, I'm gonna certainly say hello to everybody in the chat. By all means, if if something comes up, you hear something and you had a comment about it or a question about it, whatever, feel free to throw it in the chat, and we can talk about it.
Good morning, y'all. Brief isn't my brand, so I'm going to try to be brief, which means I'm going to cut out the pleasantries and the jokes. I want to quote where we've already had Stalin quoted, so we're just to put the context of what's going on. I'm going to quote a lesser-known quote from another tyrannical dictator, and that's Mao Zedong. In 1957, he not so famously said, "Not to have correct political opinions is like not having a soul." And I think that that is kind of a banner for the lives that we've been living for the last few years. And that's very unfortunate, but it's also very telling. My talk is titled, which I found out this morning, "The Target is You." What I want to talk to you about is actually the politics of.
So the conference, made a title for James, and it said, and it was going to be, "The Target is You," which is what we've talked about as well, right? Everyone is involved in this. Whether you want to be, whether you believe it or not, whether you want to be or not, you are in this revolution. You are a participant. You are under attack. Your liberty is being threatened. Like I said, whether you believe it or not, or whether you want to get involved in it or not, it really doesn't matter. The bottom line is, you are the target. You are under attack. So that was what the conference gave James as the title of his talk. He kind of explains that he's gonna give the title of his speech actually the politics of compliance.
I found out this morning, "The Target is You." What I want to talk to you about is actually the politics of compliance is the name I've given this. And it's actually derived from a strategy that Mao Zedong used. But to make the politics of compliance work, the target is actually you. And I don't just mean you with wrong political opinions who don't have souls. I mean everybody. There are generally three categories of people where it comes to the politics of compliance. There are the people who are complying, there are the people who are refusing, and the people who aren't sure. And all three are targeted by the politics of compliance roughly the same way, actually, with the same dynamic. The goal is, of course, to get the compliant to feel better than everybody else, but also frustrated with everybody else. It is to convince those who are not sure to join the program and to begin to comply. And it is to use the people who refuse to comply as the wedge around which the entire thing turns. In fact, it's to dehumanize them and motivate the other two groups to try to destroy them. So Mao Zedong very simply took over China with a very small number of conceptual concepts that I'm lumping together in what I'm calling a politics of compliance. He separated the population into two broad categories. I just mentioned three. Well, he cut it into two. So there's an oversimplification, and those two categories are the people and the enemies of the people, not to put too fine a point on it. That's what he.
So, and I've referred to it in the past as basically, and it's the same thing, right? The good people and the bad people. And, if you were talking about the people are, the good people, the people who support or comply with the regime. And you have the bad people, or the enemies of the people, those that oppose it.
He cut it into two. So there's an oversimplification, and those two categories are the people and the enemies of the people, not to put too fine a point on it. That's what he called them, the people and the enemies of the people. And what he said is, who are the people? Well, he gives this kind of historical record in 1957 of who counted as the people when. And there's a consistent running theme through his eight or nine maybe examples of different historical periods of the Chinese story, whether it's the Japanese War, the Sino-Japanese War, the second one, whether it's the period of building socialism after he took power in 1949, whether it's during his first, second, or third 5-year plan. And the examples all have the single theme that the people are the people who agree with Mao, And the enemies of the people are the people who don't agree with Mao. And it turns out to be really that simple. The people at the period of building socialism are those who support the building of socialism, and the enemies of the people are those who resist the building of socialism. He says it explicitly that clearly. And this sets up a dynamic that I think the best name for is hatecraft. And here's how it works. The goal of this split is to say that there is a correct perspective on all things, a sacred science, as Robert Lifton described it. And that's called the people's perspective, at least it was in China. We could call it whatever, the critical race perspective on race. We could call it the queer perspective on sexual politics, and we can all imagine a bunch of examples under COVID. The public health perspective, I guess, would be the right name for it. We certainly aren't, I see red hats in the crowd. You're not allowed to have those. That's the deplorable side of a different perspective. But this is the general idea. There are the people who do the right thing, there are people who do the wrong thing, and the goal is to bring people into the people's perspective, which is also called agreeing with the tyranny. And what you do in order to achieve this idea is that you separate the population into two broad categories, the people and the enemies of the people, and then you say, well, what we want is unity. We want unity, but there are certain elements in the population who are preventing us from unity and moving into the future that we could be having, and it's their fault. The people want to move forward, and the enemies of the people are stopping them. The people want to open their businesses and go back about their lives, but the people who won't wear masks or take a shot or socially distance or close down their lives or whatever else in the COVID department are stopping them. We want to open the country back up, but we can't because there's anti-vaxxers. They are the problem, and that is hatecraft. That is teaching the compliant to hate the people who are holding them back. We did what we were supposed to do. We complied. We did not get our freedom back. We took risks with our lives. We did not get our freedom back, and it's their fault. That's the essence of the politics of compliance. Mao called this formula unity, criticism, unity. He said, we'll start with a desire for unity, and just parenthetically, I'll mention the best way to create a desire for unity is to create a contentious, fractious, polarized situation where there's tremendous disunity. You start with a desire for unity. He says we then criticize and struggle, referring to his torture sessions that are called struggle sessions. We criticize and struggle those elements of the population who have incorrect opinions so that we can arrive at a new unity on a new basis. That's direct quote, new unity on a new basis. He called it socialist discipline. We call it sustainable and inclusive future. It's the same thing. We also call it new world order. In other words, we can have unity, which everybody now wants, if and only if we all start to agree on how we're all going to live, which just so happen to be dictated by the tyrants. And everybody who isn't going along is holding us back. The larger the proportion of people that you can get to comply, the more powerful the hatecraft. Because they, like I said, put their lives on the line. They did things they probably didn't want to do. They sacrificed, they willingly gave away, I should say, their freedoms. Willingly gave away their freedoms, and other people didn't, and those people are selfish. Those people are bourgeois. Those people are racists as opposed to anti-racist. We could do this in every domain because this same exact dynamic is playing out in every domain. COVID, environmentalism, politics with your deplorable hat. Every single identity politics dimension you can imagine, from race to sex to gender to sexuality to ability status to fat status to national origin. Get ready for critical immigration theory this year. If you thought 2020's CRT was bad, you've got CIT coming this year, and its target is you because its actual target is national sovereignty and national citizenship, to be compared against global citizenship. People with a global perspective are seeking global unity, a system of interdependence from nation to nation, and the stupid, backwards, national-loving people who want to keep their national identities, their national citizenship. They care about being, say, American citizens rather than undocumented Americans or new Americans. Those are the words that are being used. They care more about their own citizenship and its benefits than they do about human rights. The child on the other side of the razor wire is your neighbor too, and you have to love your neighbor as yourself. And they twist every virtue and every value into a weapon of enmity and hate.
So he mentioned critical immigration theory is going to enter the stage here very soon. It's already here. It's already arrived. And basically, what obviously we've talked about critical race theory, queer theory, post-colonial theory, all these different theories. Critical immigration theory is basically going to be, if you don't support open borders, if you don't support these illegal immigrants, basically just coming into our country, then you are a racist. You're going to be called every name in the book, right? So, and this is already starting to play out. So, and James just kind of making it known that this critical immigration theory is coming, and it's already showing that it's here.
That's the politics of compliance. That's how it works. And Mao Zedong was the world leader, the most expert practitioner of it up until the present day, which I think he may have been succeeded at this point because it's happening on the global scale in 10 dimensions at once, and the target is you. So how do you deal with the politics of compliance? How do you get people to stop hating their neighbors, to stop snitching on their neighbors, to stop pressuring their neighbors? How do you get people to stop blaming their neighbors? It turns out, and I hesitate in this room to call it a vaccine, but it turns out there's something that we could liken to a vaccine in its platonic ideal form. And that is that it turns out that when you expose this dynamic, it inoculates people against falling for this dynamic. When people realize that this is a manipulative play, and it can be described, and I just did it in 6 minutes, so I know it can be done. When you can describe how this play works and give them concrete examples of how it's been applied to them in the recent past so that they can see it for themselves, they are far less likely to fall for the next one. And if they do fall for the next one, they fall for it for a much shorter duration. In other words, the vaccine here is a lack of trust.
So to be honest with you, right? I mean, this is the whole point of me doing these live streams, right? Is just trying to expose what's going on, so that if you're not familiar with it, that you can start to see it and be less susceptible to falling for these manipulations. Either you won't fall for them at all, or if people do, they will recognize it quicker, and they won't fall for it as long as they might have potentially if they haven't heard about these concepts and what's going on, right? So that's the best thing we can do right now is to learn about and understand what's happening, and to talk to and to spread the word, right? To try to tell other people what's going on. And it's not easy. I understand. People, it's hard. People don't want to necessarily believe it, like I mentioned earlier. They don't really want to engage with it. But as things get worse and worse, this message will start to sink in, and people will start to tune in and start paying attention more. Hopefully it's not too late, to be honest with you. But we have to keep trying, keep chipping away.
In these authorities. So here's kind of the society fall for the next one. And if they do fall for the next one, they fall for it for a much shorter duration. In other words, the vaccine here is a lack of trust in these authorities. So here's kind of the societal situation, and I'll give you something that I think maybe you already know, but I want to clarify for you and close. The situation that we're in, my Instagram algorithm is probably powered by AI, and it badly knows me, but somehow it figured out, since I spend a lot of time on airplanes, that I might like airplanes, and it's been propagandizing me with pilot videos, which are very fascinating, and I watch all of them, feeding the algorithm further. And recently it showed me a video of a horrible situation where a commercial flight took off, and within minutes, the entire instrumentation of the cockpit went down. No altimeter, no nav computer, nothing, not even a radio. The entire instrument apparatus in the aircraft died. So normally in society, our trusted and venerable institutions are our instrument panel, if we think of this society as a plane flying through the air. And what you have to be able to do is fly the plane, get where you're going or get somewhere, and land the plane on runway. That's the basic principle of flight, period, if you want it to be a safe flight. When you have your instruments, they really help. When you don't have your instruments, you're in another situation. So obviously this plane turned around, found the runway, landed safely, even without a radio to contact the traffic control tower. They somehow figured out how to signal and were able to get runway clearance and land the plane. So it's possible. The point is, when I bring this up, we as a society have our instrument panel, which is our institutions, fully captured by this ideology. We just listened to a litany of things that we think we should be able to trust that we can't trust. CDC is a bad word now in our society. I see more people who think that whatever the CDC or FDA says, you should do the opposite, than I meet people who think you should believe those things now. So what do you do to land the plane? You have to use your common sense and your senses and your expertise to do what you have to do. The pilots have to visually, trusting their eyes and their ears, their very senses, figure out where the runway is, figure out how high up they are, figure out how fast they're going, and land the plane. And it can be done. So the vaccine, and I hesitate on that word, that you need is to expose the dynamic of the politics of compliance to as many people as you can so they don't fall for it.
So I just want to say a few things about the analogy James just used in terms of a plane flying, right? And the plane basically is, in this scenario, in this analogy, represents kind of society, right? And he's talking about, you have this plane flying, and normally you have your instrument panel that helps guide you to where, how high you are, how fast you're going, all these different things. And your radio where you can communicate, with air traffic control or whoever you need to communicate with, right? So you have this instrument panel that helps guide you. And in James' analogy, you have the instrument panel is basically the institutions in society, right? They help guide us, right? We have these institutions that we had some trust in, and they help society function, right? So what James is saying is the instrument panel like completely goes out, and now you have society basically flying on its own, trying to figure out how to land this plane or how to continue. So I would actually say I would say that it's actually much worse than the instrument panel going completely blank and the radio going completely out. It's much worse. It's much worse than that in terms of, imagine you're flying a plane, and listen, this is an excellent analogy, and James is trying to make a point, right? That we can no longer trust our institutions. Just like a pilot, if his instrument panel goes out, now he can no longer rely on that information, right? But I'm going to take this analogy just a step a little bit further, and tell you that imagine if you're a pilot and your instrument panel is working, but all of the information that you're getting from it is wrong or intentionally lying to you, right? Or if you're talking to air traffic control, you're using the radio, the information that you're getting is intentionally either intentionally wrong or incompetent because of the worldview that has infected these institutions, right? So now, you're flying a plane. You think you have instrument panel. You think you have information that you can rely on, but it's all lying to you, or it's all incompetent, right? So think of society, right? Obviously our institutions are still there. We haven't completely lost them. The institutions are still there, whether it's education, whether it's the media, whether it's certainly major parts of the government, corporations, the health industry, basically all of these institutions that we rely on for guidance and for information to help society run the university system, right? They're all still there and they all seem to be functioning, right? But they're all either intentionally lying to you or they're all giving you wrong information because they're incompetent, right? So that's really the situation that we're in. Our institutions are basically have been hollowed out, and they're wearing basically a skin suit of their former selves. That the exterior people, if you don't understand what's going on, you still see them, and they still look the same. They still seem to be operating the same, but they're not, right? Like I said, they're giving you the information that you're getting from them. You cannot rely on. They're either lying to you or manipulating you or maybe unintentionally giving you wrong information because of the incompetence, whatever it is. We'll start this back up here.
The dynamic of the politics of compliance to as many people as you can so they don't fall for it. In the meantime, as many people like yourselves who are awake need to start using your senses, determining reality, follow the facts. We're hearing different phrases for this, and do everything in your power to fly without the instruments, these corrupt institutions, until that trust bottoms out and we can start to rebuild them into something or replace them with something that's worthy of our trust and our respect, which will take decades. In the meantime, this is the perfect audience I know to tell this to. We hear a lot about speaking the truth. We opened about speaking the truth. I want to tell you something just to change your perspective on this in a tiny way that means everything. It is not enough to tell the truth. I'm going to wax biblical on you. You have to love the truth. You have to love the truth with all of your heart and all of your mind and all of your soul and all of your strength. And then you must love your neighbor as yourself by telling him the truth as well. Why this is important is because if you tell the truth and the pressure of hate craft or the politics of compliance comes to you hard enough, you will buckle. But if you love the truth, you will not. You will stand for the truth. You will seek the truth. You will defend the truth when it's under attack. You will defend other people who are standing for seeking and speaking the truth, because it's the truth that you love, and you love it more than anything. And when you love the truth, speaking the truth becomes easy. You don't have to worry. You're like David Martin. You don't care if you get kicked out of CPAC. I've never been allowed to speak at CPAC, so I don't care. Take that, Matt Schlapp. I'm just kidding. I know, Matt, it's okay. I'm just joking. So I want to just thank you for letting me come and tell you the politics of compliance. The Maoist dynamic is what they've used through COVID. It's what they will use for disease X or whatever. It is what they've used for the deplorable MAGAs. It is what they used in all of the identity politics. It's what they're using in environmentalism. It's the same play over and over and over and over again. and the target is you, to destroy you if you disagree, to bring you in under coercion if you're in doubt, and to turn you into a weapon of the state if you've already given in and complied. Learning and understanding this dynamic is crucial. Loving the truth and telling it is the truth, or is the cure. So thank you for letting me come say that to you tonight.
Okay, so just a couple things. He talked about the difference between telling the truth and loving the truth. That it's not enough just to tell. It's not enough to tell just to tell the truth. You have to love the truth. And he didn't say it, and I'm not speaking for him. I'm speaking for myself here. The reason I think it's important to understand that you need to love the truth is because we are not getting out of this without sacrifice. We are not getting out of this without sacrifice. Everyone, you're going to have to make sacrifices. That's just the bottom line. If you think that we are going to get through this without having to make sacrifices, I don't know what to tell you, other than that's not going to happen. And if you are not willing to make some sacrifices, I don't know to what extent everyone's going to have to make sacrifices. I don't know what, but your life is not going to be able to continue on and as if nothing's happening, and you were going to ignore what's going on and for have us to get through this. Like that's not going to happen. It's going to require sacrifice, and in order for people to be strong enough to be willing and strong enough to make those whatever sacrifices they're going to need to make, they're going to have to love the truth. To be able to stand for it, and no matter the cost, right? Because I'll tell you right now, they're going to make it convenient for people to go along with this globalist agenda. It's going to be convenient at first. People are going to some people are going to think it's a good thing. They're going to very similar to what they do to the kids who get caught up in the transgender craze. Where they love bomb them and make them feel welcome and make them feel good and make things convenient in the beginning. To get them in. To get them in the door, to get them on the path. And then the further you go, the more things start to, the more freedoms that they start to take away, the more they start to implement their agenda, right? So that's why it's so important that we understand what's going on, so that we can make as many people as possible aware of it, so that they don't fall into that trap, that they don't fall into and get tricked by the manipulations, and that they see that, okay, this might seem convenient, but what could happen if we head down this path? For instance, this central bank digital currency issue. I mean, there's a lot of issues. But if we get involved, if we get heading down the path of a purely digital money, which sounds potentially convenient, but if they have the power to control, to control what we spend our money on, how much money we can spend, and then also to control our behavior, based on whether or not we can have access to certain things, have access to our money, have access to certain aspects of society, right? So anyway, just generally, it's important to understand, what's going on. It's going to take sacrifice, and that's the whole point of trying to talk about these things. So that's it. That's it for tonight. I appreciate you tuning in, and we will do it again next Thursday night. I'll see you then.